Some people have an unfortunate, errant idea that some ideas disprove others. And it's true in some ways, as we obviously know there are contradictions, but Thomas Kuhn and some others think there are paradigms that totally reject what came before. That's the set of assertions that I'm addressing. Not clearly like someone calls you a jerk when you're not. That's clearly a lie, false, nonsense, and error. That's different. That's something that you can legitimately say is wrong and all that. You can be rational about. This that I'm talking about are errant, wrong philosophic ideas. So you'll hear some people think Einstein showed Newton was wrong, or Mendel's laws have been shown to be wrong, stuff like that. It's an unfortunate consequence of people not knowing epistemology or having false ideas, being backed into a corner or having to make assertions based on silly things. If they're going to be like that, then out with chemistry, out with chemical equations. Occurred to me yesterday, working with a kid in tutoring, we're doing chemical equations. He's doing a test review. It says, what's the law of conservation of mass and how is it relevant? Law of conservation of mass. It says that in chemical reactions, matter can either be created and destroyed. The mass on one side is equal to the mass on the other. But if what people say is true, then this is false. Chemical equations have been shown to be false. It's illegitimate because E equals mc squared. No, there isn't mass, there's energy. So talking about mass, when mass is equivalent to energy, and when there's a chemical reaction, some of the energy is changed from one side to the other, that just throws out the entire field to show that it's entirely wrong, according to what these people would say. But obviously that's invalid and wrong and errant. No sensible person throws out the law of conservation of mass and throws out chemistry because, Einstein discovered E equals mc squared. So there goes mass and chemistry. No rational person ever does that. Einstein himself, what did he say about Newton? This is from 1948. And a quote I got at the beginning of Physics for the Inquiring Mind by Eric Rogers, the beginning of part 1. Quote, no one must think that Newton's great creation can be overthrown by relativity or any other theory. His clear and wide ideas will forever retain their significance as the foundation on which our modern conceptions of physics have been built. Unquote. Einstein was wrong on some things in philosophy of science and epistemology, but he was right on some things, clearly, otherwise he couldn't have done what he did. And he did some great thinking, good physics, obviously. Pretty much everyone knows that. So, looking at what he said, what he did, what I know about the science and physics and chemistry and math and philosophy in their history, in their practice, and so on and so forth, bringing this broad context to bear and assess this, he's right. I'm going to go with this, not the people who say that there are paradigms and one thing shows another entirely to be wrong. No, the proper perspective is that some knowledge builds out of others. Copernicus showed Ptolemy was wrong in some important respects, but he still used orbits, he still used circles, he still used math. He got what was correct and threw out the rest. And then Kepler, he didn't show Copernicus, you're entirely wrong. No, he built out of the correct things and got rid of the incorrect. Did Copernicus not think that the sun was at the center of our solar system? He did think so, just like Copernicus. He did not throw that out. Did he think that the planets have the same relative orbits as what Copernicus calculated and put into his theory? Yes, Kepler did do the same thing. He did not say orbits are elliptical, Copernicus says they're circular. Everything he said is wrong. No, that is ludicrous. He built out of it. Just as Einstein knows, he built out of it and developed it. And instead of some corrections here, what Einstein did was have a different context. Newton had a certain context of things and observations. Einstein, by having a broader context, does not show it's wrong. He gets what Newton did and expands it to a broader context and sees what needs to be modified and what can be kept the same. In this context of things going, I think maybe the fastest thing that Newton knew about, and not many of them, went maybe like 70% of the speed of light. And they didn't know about atoms at the time and some things like that. So we're talking about macroscopic objects going only so fast in that rigidly defined, delimited, scientifically prescribed, valid, logical, legitimate, hard and fast context. He's right. If we take things to greater and greater scales and smaller scales, atomic and subatomic level, get things going really, really fast, then we got to see whether this stuff can be taken in the same way to this broader context or not. That is not showing it's wrong. That's developing it into a different context. Just like if a kid, a baby, all they have to go on is shape and physical object, and they know what a human is, learning that there's consciousness and reason, and we have a rational consciousness as opposed to the other animals. It doesn't nullify everything the kid knew before. It builds upon it. So, there's some good food for thought on how knowledge really works and how it builds. Thomas Kuhn is wrong. The paradigm stuff is nonsense. Maybe he was trying to do some stuff. I have to dig into him some more. Obviously, I read Scientific Revolutions decades ago. Would need to read again. Dig into more of his philosophic influences. So there's understanding and not just running thy mouth about something that some people do. We need to look at what someone says, what their influences are, what the deep thought is, so we can understand them. But he was wrong. Had some unfortunate influences. Was led in a bad direction by accepting some bad ideas, and came up with some nonsense. But that's for another day. But as we know, we look at reality. Einstein built on Newton. E equals mc squared in quantum mechanics does not negate the law of conservation of mass. We still use that. We use chemical equations all over the place. We use Newton's laws all over the place. We still use Mendel's laws. So we need to think about a good epistemology so we can focus and be right and know better about how knowledge develops and how to teach it instead of talking this nonsense. Thank you. Peace.